Hey kids, this is Ivan. How you doing? A little sad today. We finished up session 6 of our Lamentations of the Flame Princess in Prussia game that I've been running for, it's about 3 months. We've been playing like every 2 weeks, with the exception of one time where we took a month off. And I've been playing with 3 really great gamers and role players. I'm playing with Jason, Dark Age of Roleplay Games, and with Lee, your humble game master, and with Josh James, who does not have a YouTube channel but should, because he posts videos on his Facebook page, and they're fantastic. I keep on poking him that he should ought to put these things up on YouTube because they are great. But anyhow, if you want to watch that game, don't watch this because there's going to be a spoiler or two in this. But I wanted to talk a little bit about what happened last night from perspective of OSR character death, because we actually finally had our first death in this game, which is surprising because that rule set can be very, very deadly. It's not just Lamentations of the Flame Prince. It's just like old basic OD&D, but they're just deadly. But we had our first character death. And I want to talk about the impact that kind of had on me today, and how a person that's grew up playing old OSR games, and certainly playing an OSR game right now, views character death or reacts to character death, and this has been a little bit different for me. But I digress. Actually, it was an interesting session. I did some preparation for it because we kind of left them on a cliffhanger last time, and I figured what they were going to investigate, which was the possible case of a doppelganger, God knows what. There appears to be. They seem to run into this twin phenomenon more than once. They're not sure what they're dealing with here, and I wasn't sure like how long that was going to take or how long they were going to be interested in that, because they've been kind of driving the bus. They've been dictating what we do. Like certainly there's stuff happening in the world, but what the players, what the game turns out to be about at any given time is what the players actually choose to do. What the characters choose to do or follow up on or go explore. Forge their trail where there might be nothing. So I prepared a few other little things because generally the way that I game master is that the world is really focused in one spot where the characters are, and it gets a little fuzzier on the edges. But every once in a while you think, okay, well I've got to detail these edges out a little bit. I have a basic idea, but just the details. So I did like a few things. They never got to any of that, which is great. They stayed in this one location. And the session was really, really cool. These are 3 really good role players and really imaginative people. So the game took on this kind of investigative nature for a long period of time. There was a lot of tense scenes. There was a lot of great role play. It was nuanced role play, but just they were reacting like how these people would react in this situation if those people were real. I'm in my element at that point. It was fantastic. So not a lot to do as a game master except just kind of like have the elements of the world react the way they would, so it's phenomenal. But we get to this point finally where they encounter something or they follow up on something where they put themselves in a great deal of danger. Now, 2 of the characters actually leveled up right before the session, so they had more. What boiled down to for the most part is they're a little bit more competent, had a few more hit points. None of these characters, you got 2 third-level characters and a second-level character. None of them are very have a lot of hit points. And the way these old school games work is generally, every level you have, what it really boils down to is you can take that many hits before you bite the dust. But Jurgen, our party fighter, he was already wounded from an encounter where he was pretty much nigh death, so he's been healing very slowly. So we gained some extra hit points, but he was really just fragile. And what ended up happening is they ended up following up on something that they ended up putting themselves in a situation that was far more dangerous than they anticipated. And they also, true to form, each one of them played their character the way the personality of that character has developed, like what that character would have actually done, and which was not always optimal. And they could have, if they pursued what they were doing in a very strategic manner, it would have been a lot different. And the way that it was almost a TPK, well, we only had one character die, and that was really, what saved the party, the rest of the party from not dying, or from dying, is that the party wizard, Hans Fleischer, actually botched a spell, and because I'm using the VAM rules, like there was a thing that happened when the miscast happened, which pretty much wiped out the threat. It was kind of funny the way that ended up happening, but. We have this situation where Jurgen, the party fighter, ends up encountering what he believes might be a witch, and he bursts the door down, and in 2 rounds he dies. And it was just a way that I couldn't roll bad to save my life in this game. Like, I literally was a killer DM, and just what my dice were doing. And in the meantime, there were a few spots where they just rolled phenomenally badly. There's this very hilarious series of ones rolled by Josh James, which is just gold just to watch. But we played to find out. And we found out. And one of the interesting things, today is, I've talked a lot about the fact that, character death, especially in the old school games, the idea of meaningful character death, I don't want to say it is anathema to me, but that's not why I play. And character death is part of the game. It's not a part of the game I look forward to, but it can happen. This death probably hit me harder than a lot of them have in the past. And I was thinking to myself, well, why? Have I just become soft in my old age? And maybe, But I've certainly had a lot of characters die. I've certainly killed, my fair share of characters as a game master. Not intentionally, but that's just what happened. But, I was thinking about it, and, for the most part in my gaming career, I haven't played with a lot of really good role players. I played with a bunch, but, one of the things that makes this table different than some of the other tables I've played at lately, a virtual table, is that, I've had the privilege of playing with groups where everybody's a really good role player. Everybody's really getting into character. The characters have really come alive. This was our 6th session. The sessions have been about roughly 3 hours each. So they've already had, we're about 18 hours of game time at this point. So these characters have come alive. We're fans of these characters. There's a small group of people that watch the videos that they're fans of the characters in the campaign. So, it's just become this, a real living, breathing thing. And, so it was, Jurgen was a much more real person to me. And, not only will I mourn the character, but I will mourn the dynamic between those 3 characters that was created, by the 3 of them together. And, one of the things, Jason talks a little bit about the idea that he's not into meaningful character death. He's into living meaningfully, meaningful character life. Character death is meaningless. And, I was thinking about that, and that is very, very true. I think he even mentioned that, we talked a little bit about the session on air before we cut it out, and then we talked a little bit more. And I was thinking about Jurgen was a guy that lived, he had a meaningful life. He lived his life in a particular way. The way that he died was not especially meaningful, but he died doing exactly what he did all the time. He was a witch hunter, whether they were witches or not. And because his life was so meaningful, because of the real personality he imparted into that character, because of the dynamic that ended up being created with all those characters together. His death itself wasn't meaningful, but the character of Jurgen was meaningful. I've experienced death in my life. Death of people that their death wasn't meaningful, but you've gone to the service, you've talked to people about it, you have that mourning or grieving period or what have you, and they have that sort of celebration or remembrance of the person's life, and that is what was meaningful. So in a very real way, in this fictional hobby, I'm kind of experiencing that same mourning period where I can kind of look back and remember the meaningful contribution that Jurgen made to that setting, to that world, to that dynamic. Much more than I could have created myself. I think much more than any one of us could have created ourselves. So at the end of the day, does an OSR guy grieve the death of a character? Yeah, I think it depends on the character. I've had other characters die that were mine, that other people's, where it was a bummer because I had plans, or I just become attached to them. But this was a little bit different, So am I getting softer in my old age? Maybe, but I think it's also just the dynamic of how the game got played. And so, hopefully we get to continue this campaign. I have a schedule change where I literally start a job where I'm a 9-to-5er now, Monday through Friday, which is great, except, Lee is across the pond, and so we have a 5-hour difference. Jason, on the other hand, is 2 hours the other way, so we're having a bit of a discussion of, when can we play, and so far nothing has really kind of come up. They're on this incredible cliffhanger right now, as a matter of fact, and I really hope that we get to continue that, because I'd really mourn the loss of that campaign itself. It will never be the same. And which is sad. Yeah, I mean, so at the end of the day, I'm just as human as anybody else. I'm still not a fan of playing a game where the characters can't die. I mean, there's a part of me that wishes that I could have saved him. That wishes I could have fudged the dice and all that sort of stuff. But that's no different than when I watch a movie or read a book and then one of the characters gets killed, and it makes great dramatic sense. It's great tension, but at the same time, it still stinks. You know, you're still saddened by it. So yeah, I guess I'm in this mourning period for Jurgen, but it's been a great experience, and I think it's how you approach the game. You know, it's how the characters get played. It's how the people at the table actually approach that dynamic or that experience that you're having that makes the character death more poignant. So, not sure how much this video made, how much sense the video made, but I just wanted to make some reflections while I was, still stinging from the events. It's still been a great campaign, great experience, and I look forward to more of playing with those guys in whatever scenario we end up playing. So, anyhow, that's it. The end.